You've most likely had this experience where you walk into a dark place, turn the light on, and you experience a lot of stress in your eyes. And at that second, it feels like you can't make sense of anything you see until a few seconds later and your vision is clear. Or maybe you're in a bright place, but you have the lights turned off, and so you can't see anything until a few seconds later you can see a few things in the dark. Well, this happens because your eyes have a way of controlling how much light goes into it. That's the job of the iris, and the hole in which the light goes through is the pupil. As a second voted video for this week, after the Nigerian visa video, I'll be explaining why your pupils change size based on the light in the environment. Here is a video I was able to make of the pupil in my eye. Now, if you observe this video closely, you can see the pupil, which is the black circle in the brown circle. As I reduce the brightness of the light in my environment, the black circle increases in size, and when I reduce the brightness of light in my environment, the black circle reduces. And my iris is brown, so you can't really see the black pupil very well in the dark, but the small circle you see on the screen is what the size of the pupil was at the brightest of light, and the big circle is the size when I reduced the light to the lowest. If you look at blue iris eyes, for example, the pupil is more obvious. When I reduce the brightness of light, the pupil increases in size. You see that as I increase the brightness, the pupil reduces in size. That black circle, which is the pupil, as you see in these videos, is like a hole in your eye that controls how much light goes into it. The bigger the hole, more light goes into your eye. The smaller the hole, less light goes into your eye. But why is this size control so important? Well, the basic reason is that if it's too bright in the environment and too much light goes into your eye, your brain cannot make sense of what you're looking at. For example, if I turn on the brightness of this video, you can't really see much that is going on. And on the other hand, if it's too dark, your brain can also not make sense of what is happening in the environment. So one of the reasons why the pupil size changes is so that you can control how much light is going into your eye to ensure that your brain can make sense of the information that it sees. Another big reason why this control is important is because too much light going to your retina can damage your eyes. Now let's look at the layers of the eye. So in the layers of the eye, you have the cornea, then you have the iris, and in this iris you have that hole, which is the pupil, and you have the retina. There's obviously other layers involved in your eye, like the structure you see on the screen, but what is really important for us in this video is the iris, the pupil, and the retina. So the iris contains a muscle that adjusts the size of the pupil. The pupil is the hole through which the light goes through. Now the retina is the innermost layer of the eye, which contains light-sensitive cells. It receives light and converts it to neural signals, which are sent to the brain to make sense of the light that comes into the eye. So the retina is what helps the brain make sense of the information through light that goes into the eye. So if too much light gets to the retina, like I already pointed out, then your brain can't make sense of the information that it sees. Your vision might even get blurry. But also, since the retina is light sensitive, too much light can overstimulate the cells and cause them to release excessive signaling chemicals, which can cause retinal damage and therefore affect visual clarity. So it is very important that your iris controls how much light is getting to that retina. The way the pupil works in the eye is similar to the lens of a camera. If you're not familiar with cameras, this part of the video might be confusing, but just stay with me. I'll keep it as basic as possible. So your lens has a function called the aperture, which allows you to control how much light goes into the lens. I have my camera here with a lens connected to it. Down here, you can see this f2.8 that indicates the aperture. Now, the smaller the value here, the bigger the lens is open, or the bigger the pupil of the lens is open. The bigger the f point, the smaller the lens. So as I increase the value of this f point, you can see that what we see on the screen is getting darker. That's because the light that gets into the camera is reducing, and when I take it back to 2.8, you can see it increases. And we can actually look at this from another angle of the camera. You see this opening there. As I increase and reduce the aperture, you see something there closing and opening. That's kind of the pupil of the eye, which opens to receive more light and closes to reduce how much light goes in. So that's why the size of your pupils increase and reduce. This is an automatic job done by the iris muscles, so that firstly you can visually make sense of as much information as is available, because if everywhere is dark in the first place, there's only so much you can see, but the iris still tries its best best to make sure that you are seeing as much as is available, and if it's a lot of light, you are still able to visually make sense of what you see, but also to control how much light gets to the retina. That's why you've probably had cases where somebody stays in the screen for a long time and then it affects their eyes. One of the reasons could be that staying in front of a very bright screen constantly damages your retina and then affects your visual clarity in general. And there are other reasons why the size of your pupils can also change. I read a few things about maybe your nervous system, if you're stressed, if you are really focused, if you're trying to look at something closer or try to look at something further away, that can also affect the size of your pupil. But a big factor that also contributes to the size, just as we have seen in this video, is also the light available in the environment. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more curious videos like this, also subscribe. I get really curious about the things happening around me and I make my research about them, and I also try to make videos about it.